What's up guys, this is Alan. In today's episode I'm going to be telling you everything that you need to know in order to successfully grow your own Buddha belly bamboo. Yes, it's a dwarf variety, super easy to grow, extremely ornamental, but there are a few things that you need to understand about this variety before you plant your own. So in this episode I'm not only going to be telling you everything that you need to know about this variety, I'm also going to be giving you my personal growing tips from growing this variety for the past few years. All right, so before we get started, we need to know a little more about the Buddha belly bamboo. Where does the name come from? Well, let me go ahead and show you. The name Buddha belly comes from the actual culms, the shoots, the canes, whatever you want to call this right here. The nodes are close together and then they swell up, giving the impression that they have little bellies, just like a Buddha belly. And that's primarily where the name comes from. Other than that, this is just a regular bamboo, just like any other clumping variety. Very easy to grow. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about the growing conditions of Buddha belly. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the sun requirements. Buddha belly bamboo will take full sun anywhere in the United States, and the sun is extremely important. And if you stick to the end, I will tell you why, because that falls under my personal growing tips. But yeah, full sun anywhere in the United States. Can they grow in the shade? Yes, but you do not want them to grow in the shade because they grow a lot slower. So full sun, even here in the desert. Winter care. All right, so winter care for this variety specifically is they are a little more frost sensitive than other varieties. And that is the only challenge that I've had growing Buddha belly here in my area, since I get frost and I get colder than normal every winter. Now, Buddha belly will take temperatures in the low 20s. This variety right here that I'm trimming has taken 19-degree ambient temperature. But that winter, I did have frost protection for it. It did die back a little bit, but it came back, as you guys can see. If your soil freezes in the winter time, I do not think this variety will grow in your area. So, frost protection in the winter and cold hardy to low 20s. Root system. This is a clumping variety. The root system of Buddha belly bamboo is fibrous and shallow, just like grass. So, you can plant in closer structures, close to anything, and you shouldn't have to worry about anything. Growth rate. How fast does this variety grow? Well, compared to all the other varieties that I have featured in my channel, this is a slow growing variety. It's gonna take a few years to actually start growing. If you want something that grows super fast and it's gonna give you tons of a privacy screen, well, in my recommendation, if you're patient, this will work for you. If you're not, it is not going to work for you, simply because it takes a few years for them to start taking off, especially in non-tropical areas. So, slow to medium growth rate. But remember, your bamboo will not grow until it's fully rooted in the ground. So if you live in an area that gets cold in the winter time and your bamboo variety takes damage every single winter, it's going to take even longer for your bamboo to look just like mine does. Let's talk about the growth structure. This is a clumping bamboo. It's a dwarf variety. Usually they get about, depending on the area you live in, they're gonna get, I would say, 10, 12 feet tall. Smaller in cooler areas, maybe a little taller in warmer areas. How wide is it gonna get? Well, my bamboo has been in the ground for several years, and I can tell you, the base of the bamboo, this one over here, it's a little smaller than the other one. This one covers an area about 3 by 3. The other one covers an area about 4 by 4. They have both been in the ground about the same time, but this one right here, the first winter, actually died back to the ground. So it had to regrow compared to the other one. The other one did take damage that winter as well, but it wasn't as bad because this one is in a more open space. So if you're looking for a smaller variety bamboo, well, this is the one to get since they do not get that big. But you gotta keep in mind, they make a mess. Yes, a huge mess. So keep that in mind if you're gonna be planting this anywhere around pools or your house. You're gonna be constantly cleaning because they litter a lot. Let's talk about watering. How do you water Buddha belly bamboo? Well, if your plant's in the ground like this one, full established, keep in mind it has a shallow root system. So when you do water, you want the water to penetrate the soil. I would say for a fully mature Buddha belly bamboo, it needs to penetrate the soil at least 2-3 feet. If it does, you should be good to go. Now, if your Buddha belly is brand new in the ground and you still don't have the mature culms coming off the ground, you probably need to water more often than that. And that's gonna be probably wet the soil about 1 to 2 feet. And remember, the shallower you water, the more often you're gonna have to water, especially if you live in an area with extreme temperatures. Your soil's gonna dry a lot faster. This one here, right now, in this area, it's getting watered, I think every 4 days. And since it's in the same zone as my figs, it's getting watered for several hours. Does it need several hours? No, it does not, but that's what you usually have to do if you have several different types of plants on the same watering zone. Now, if this one was on its own, I would probably be watering it every 2 days, probably for about 1 to 2 hours, and that would be enough. Am I overwatering it? No, because if your soil drains the water, you will never be able to overwater your plants. That will be a gardening myth. And since I'm watering it for several hours, the only thing I'm doing is I may be wasting a little bit of water. That is it. Let's talk about fertilization. How do you fertilize a Buddha belly bamboo? Well, I can tell you, the only thing I do with this guys right here, every once in a while, maybe once a year, when I clean my horse poop in the backyard, I just collect it and I dump it around my trees. And that will feed the living organisms in the soil, and in return, they will feed my plants. So, and that's all I do, maybe about once a year. I do not use any special fertilizers. And the only thing that I always tell people to do is to always concentrate on water first, and then you can go ahead and worry about fertilization once your plants are fully rooted in the ground. If your Buddha belly is in a container, how do you fertilize it? Well, all you gotta do is just use any slow release fertilizer and you are good to go. That's what I use in all my bamboo varieties that I have in containers. And that brings us to container growing. Can you grow your Buddha belly in a container if you don't have the space to actually grow it in the ground? The answer is yes, but check this out. It's not what you think. Bamboo in general will not grow the big shoots, the culms. They won't mature in a container. They're just not going to. The root system needs to be fully developed for them to be able to mature, and that's the only way for you to get the big, nice looking Buddha belly culms out of the ground. If you keep them in a container, all the shoots that you get, they're gonna be skinny like this. Yeah, this is a striped Buddha belly right here. You can see it has yellow stripes on it, but they're skinny. They don't look good. Now, a lot of you are gonna be wondering, why doesn't it have the bellies? Well, because the bellies only happen once the culms are fully mature. When they're skinny like this, it's just not gonna happen. So if you wanna keep your Buddha belly in a container, that is exactly what you're gonna get. Which in my opinion, it's not worth it. They have a very vigorous root system. And whatever container you put it in, they're gonna root it very quickly. You can tell this one right here, it's a cutting. And you can see the cutting itself is this one right here, because that's the mature one. And all the new shoots, they're all skinny. This is a Buddha belly, there's no question in that. But a lot of times when you buy a Buddha belly from a nursery and you see shoots like this that don't have the bellies, Well, it's not like they're not selling you the real deal. It's just the way it works, especially if you keep them in containers. Very easy to mistake them for other varieties. So if you buy Buddha Belly from anywhere, you gotta make sure you can trust the nursery you're buying it from, because sometimes they can get mixed up with other varieties and you will not know until it's actually fully grown. If you ever see a mature, nice looking Buddha Belly in a container, a huge container, it did not get to that size naturally in that container. It probably rooted itself through the pot into the ground, and that was the only way it was able to grow. So if you ever buy any bamboo out there, try to find the smallest size available, simply because it's just not worth buying bigger size containers. And that brings us to my personal growing tips. Things that I have learned over the years growing this variety specifically. Number one is you're gonna have to prune them, especially in areas where you get a lot of sun, like here in the desert. As you saw earlier, my bamboo got really bushy. Bamboos in general are bushes. The only time they are gonna grow taller rather than a bush is in areas where they do not get enough sun, or if you keep them in the shade. So that's the second thing that I've learned about Buddha Belly, and that is they need direct sunlight, a lot of sun, even here in the desert. You see my area right here actually gets a lot of sun. That's the east side over there, and the sun comes this way, and around 3 in the afternoon or so it goes that way. So this one right here, since it was really bushy, I hadn't trimmed it for over 1.5 years now. It was too shaded. Even though the canopy itself got direct sunlight, the actual culms, the shoots, did not. It was too shaded. What usually happens, they grow faster, trying to reach the sunlight. And by doing so, the nodes in between, they elongate, they stretch, they get farther apart from each other. And by doing so, you do not get the Buddha Belly feature that people are looking for in this variety. Yes, this is a Buddha Belly because right next door, you see I have this one right here with bellies. I have that one over there with bellies. And they are all coming out of the same root system. The only difference is which side got more shade and which side got more sun. So that's gonna be the main issue with growing Buddha Belly. Direct sunlight, no shade at all. The third thing that I've learned about this variety is they, just like any other variety out there, they litter a lot. This right here, all this mulching here, it's about 6 months old. This area was clear at the beginning of the year. 6 months later, actually 7 months later, look all this. I haven't even cleared everything out. So you're gonna be constantly cleaning. So if you have a pool, do not plant this around pools. I see a lot of people out there that plant this variety around pools because they're actually a dwarf variety, they're smaller. Yeah, they're gonna fit around your pool, but you want all that mess inside your pool? Most likely not. And last thing I've learned about this variety, well, like I said earlier, it is more cold sensitive than the other varieties that I have. A few years ago, we got one of the coldest winters we had here, and we hit 19 degrees. This one right here had frost protection, but it suffered cold damage during that winter. It was the same winter that this bamboo variety was in the ground too. This one died back to the ground, but as you can see, it recovered and grew a lot faster than my Buddha Belly bamboo. And the problem with them dying back, as long as your soil doesn't freeze, they will come back. But you saw a lot of the branches that I trimmed that were very skinny. Well, if your bamboo variety dies back, you will lose all the progress that you worked for the previous years. All the shoots, all the culms will die back to the ground, like this one right here. This one was one of the nicest ones that I had in the ground because this one is actually a striped variety. But last winter, I was smart enough to frost protect it. But I didn't realize my irrigation system inside was not working. So the entire winter, even though it was one of the warmest winters we had last year, it probably didn't even need frost protection. It didn't get water, and I did not realize it until I took the cover off. And my beautiful, amazing looking culms completely died back, almost down to the ground. You can see it's all dead. You can see how it died back. Now, did it recover? Yes, it did. But you see all the new shoots that I'm getting, they're all skinny. All of them. This is just a bush now. It's gonna take easily another year to 2 years before they mature again and it looks nice again. So that's gonna be the main problem if your bamboo variety takes damage during the winter time. Super easy to grow. As always, if you have any questions, comment below. If you like the video, don't forget to like it so it gets recommended to more people out there so more people can see what true gardening is about. All the plants that I feature in my channel are grown in my native soil, clay soil. I don't use any special fertilizers. All I do is treat my plants like you treat your animals or your kids. That's it. Simple. Anyways, as always, I will see you next time.